December 17, 1944, 0800 hours, Bulge, Belgium. SS Oberfuhrer Joachim Peiper stood in the town square watching his men refuel tanks. American tanks, using American fuel, poured from captured jerry cans by American prisoners at gunpoint. Peiper commanded Kampfgruppe Peiper, the spearhead of the 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler, 4,800 men and 117 armored vehicles tasked with breaking through American lines, reaching the Meuse River, and splitting the Allied armies in two. The operation had begun only 30 hours earlier, Hitler's last desperate gamble, Operation Watch on the Rhine. 3 German armies, 250,000 men, and 1,400 tanks, all aimed at Antwerp. But the plan was doomed from the start. The German High Command allocated just 5 million gallons of fuel, barely half of what was needed. The rest would have to come from captured American supplies. At Bullingen, Peiper struck gold, 50,000 gallons of untouched fuel. Exhausted German crews stood aside, while captured Americans pumped gas into their own former tanks. It was efficient and humiliating, just the way Peiper wanted it. Yet as he watched the jerry cans pass hand to hand, he knew the clock was against him. Every minute spent refueling was a minute lost. Without gasoline, even the mightiest Tiger tank was just steel and desperation. Peiper had learned that on the Eastern Front, where fuel shortages had immobilized entire divisions. Now, the same nightmare returned. The refueling ended at 09:30 hours. The column moved out toward Stavelot, 14 kilometers west, where intelligence promised another, even larger depot. Along the way, Peiper examined captured American rations, small waterproof boxes labeled K-Ration, meal, combat, individual. Inside were canned ham and eggs, biscuits, chocolate, coffee, cigarettes, and even chewing gum. To Peiper, a career soldier used to hard bread and fat-heavy meat, the sight was a revelation. The Americans weren't just fighting with superior numbers, they were fighting with superior logistics. Every detail of their supply system was engineered for efficiency, from food to fuel. By noon, Kampfgruppe Peiper reached Stavelot and fought for 3 hours to seize the town's bridge. It held, intact, by sheer luck. But when they searched for the massive fuel depot their intelligence promised, they found nothing. Scouts scoured the outskirts. Reports trickled in. Small caches here and there. But not the millions of gallons they needed. Frustrated but unwilling to delay, Peiper ordered his column west again. What he didn't know was that the fuel depot did exist. 3 million gallons of gasoline stacked in jerry cans along a roadside barely 300 yards from his path. It wasn't hidden. There were no fences or tanks or buildings, just endless rows of cans stretching for miles. But Peiper never saw it. He expected a depot to look German, industrial, centralized, obvious. The American system was mobile, modular, invisible. That oversight sealed his fate. 4 days later, Peiper's advance stalled at Stoumont. Surrounded, out of fuel and ammunition, Kampfgruppe Peiper fought to survive. Major Hal McCown of the U.S. 119th Infantry was captured and brought before Peiper. 2 professional soldiers meeting in a ruined Belgian farmhouse. They spoke for hours. Peiper defended Nazism, convinced Germany would still win. McCown listened, quietly noting the exhaustion, hunger, and desperation in the German ranks. The men wore parts of captured American uniforms for warmth. They ate K-Rations like delicacies. Their medical supplies were gone. Morphine and bandages were replaced by pain and improvisation. McCown saw amputations done without anesthesia, soldiers biting leather straps as bone saws cut through flesh. The next day, German aircraft tried to drop supplies, but the canisters missed and landed in American lines. Peiper's situation was hopeless. On December 23rd, he ordered the breakout. Destroy all vehicles, leave the wounded behind with captured American medical kits, release prisoners, and march east on foot. In the chaos of the night, McCown escaped and returned to Allied lines, filing a detailed report on German conditions, exhausted troops, empty fuel tanks, and an army starving amid its own wreckage. By late December, the Ardennes offensive had collapsed. Peiper abandoned over 100 tanks and 135 vehicles, all fully functional but out of fuel. Steel giants turned into frozen monuments of failure. Weeks later, captured German generals like Hasso von Manteuffel explained to American interrogators that they had known from the start the offensive was impossible. Hitler's plan relied on capturing enemy fuel. The math had never worked. German logistics, crippled since the Eastern Front, depended on horse-drawn wagons that couldn't keep pace with armored warfare. By contrast, the Americans had endless trucks, secure supply lines, and industrial might that could feed and fuel millions. The Luftwaffe's failure to protect transportation routes, Allied air dominance, and the destruction of rail networks all ensured that the German advance would run dry long before it reached Antwerp. Manteuffel was blunt. "We did not lose because we were outfought. We lost because we were outsupplied." Even SS General Sepp Dietrich, commander of the 6th Panzer Army, admitted bitterly after the war that his Panzer Army ended with only 6 tanks still running. Fuel, not courage, decided the Ardennes. Peiper himself, captured in 1945, told American interrogators how his men drove right past the 3-million-gallon depot at Stavelot without realizing it. When shown the map, he simply smiled and said, "I am sorry." That small oversight symbolized the entire German failure, an army that could fight brilliantly but could not sustain itself. The Battle of the Bulge was not just a contest of armies. It was a test of industrial civilization. The Americans won because they could keep their soldiers fed, fueled, and fighting. The Germans lost because they could not. In the end, it was not the Tiger tank or the Sherman that decided the battle. It was the jerry can. Logistics, not legend, determined the fate of the Ardennes, and with it, the fate of the Third Reich.